Now let's look at cascade of classifiers. So until now what we were looking at was that we have in ensemble we have one classifier, we have another classifier, we have another classifier, and we will do a voting over that. Okay, so this is ensemble. Now in cascade what we will do, so this is your classifier C1, classifier C2, classifier, or let's say F1. F1, F2 and F3. Okay. In decision tree or in cascade classification, what we will do is we will first use classifier F1, okay, and let it divide the data into, let's say, two classes or two different bifurcations, and we assume that this bifurcation is not perfect, at least for the test data. So we will refine that using another classifier that will actually give you a better decision. It specializes on what comes to the left branch as opposed to what goes to the right branch using F1. Okay, so now what you will get here is different outputs. So you will get the F2 output, but you will get it only on those samples that are sent to the left branch by the first classifier. Okay, so this is a cascade, like a cascade of waterfalls, one falls into the other. Okay, so here we have the final decision, decision 1, 2, 3 and 4. So each of these classifiers in the cascade might be a weak classifier, okay, but when we combine them in a cascade, then they may give us better decisions. So for example, what we are saying is that let's look at linear classifiers. Okay, so we have one linear classifier which is F1. Okay, so now here it's possible that so let's say these are your positive points, these are largely positive. Okay, some of them are negative, these are largely negative. Okay, some of them are positive. Okay, so this is the best we could do with a single linear classifier. All right, now whatever goes on the upper side of this classifier, we will learn a second classifier which is F2. Okay, and we will learn a third classifier which is F3. Okay, so by doing a cascade of the three, notice that they are not intersecting each other in ensemble. So this is cascade. Okay, in ensemble the same effect look like this. Here the three classifiers were, their boundaries were overlapping with each other, and then it was dividing the space into more than two subspaces. Okay, here what we have is that they are not cutting each other. Only if something falls on the top side of the yellow line of the F1 classifier, then we will apply the F2 classifier. If it falls on the lower side of F1, then we will apply the F3 classifier. Okay, so based on that we may get better decisions in a cascade. So now let's so it's basically called a tree in the sense that these are called, let me change the color, these are called leaf nodes. What is a leaf node? At the end of the leaf node you will get a decision. Okay, and this the nodes that are not the leaf nodes, they are called internal nodes. So they don't make the final decision, but they help you reach the final decision. And this could have multiple branches, and it need not be just three classifiers with two levels. It can actually have many such decisions. and it need not even be balanced. Okay, so in that case, the special internal node where we start, okay, that is called the root node. So it's an inverted tree. The root is on the top and the leaves are at the bottom. In actual trees that you see outside your buildings, the roots are at the bottom and the leaves are on the top. Okay, so here the first node where the data enters, that is a root node, and all the other nodes below that are either internal nodes or or leaves, and the leaf nodes are where the final decision gets made. Okay, so this is a cascade, and usually they can be implemented as binary classifiers, but there is no strict requirement that they have to be binary. Let's say if it is a cascade of neural networks, the neural networks can also be n-ary classifiers if we have more than 2 classes. So these binary classifiers can also in a cascade work for multiple classes also, because it's possible that at every node you only make a binary decision of, let's say, class 1 versus all the other classes, class 3 versus all the other classes, and so forth, but finally you make a decision for one class. So all these potential combinations are possible, and they are all called decision trees. We'll look at a simple version of a decision tree. Let's look at a special type of a cascade classifier called a binary decision tree, and the structure of the tree is quite simple. At each node we will make a binary decision about whether a particular feature is greater than or less than a particular threshold. That's all we will do. Okay, so what we mean by that is that, let's say we have a tree structure, and this tree structure goes like this. Okay, something along these lines, and all we do is at any given node, what we will take is, we will take one dimension of x, not one sample but one dimension of x, so xi. Okay, and we will see whether it is greater than some threshold theta j. Okay, xi greater than theta j. Okay, so if it is greater, then we will go here, which is yes. If it is not greater, we will go here, which is no. That's the decision we will make. Okay, so it's a binary decision at every node of the tree. Okay, whether it is a root node or any other internal node or a leaf node. Just that when we have the leaf node, what we will do is, any internal node. On the leaf node, what we will do is, we will give the decision. So for classification, it would be one of the class labels. Okay, for regression, it would be one value. It will be one continuous value. So it will be some value, which is yi, yj, etc. So we will get these step type outputs for regression, and we will get some class for the classification. Now, what does the hypothesis space looks like? So basically what we will have is, let's say if we have only 2 variables, which is all I can draw. So if I have x1 and x2, okay, your root node is going to select either x1 or x2, and if it has selected x2, then it will basically draw a line which is parallel to the x1 axis, alright, which will divide the points into x1 greater, so we will have this x2 greater than theta 1. That is the decision we are making. So this is the yes part, and this is the no part. So this is, let's say, x2 greater than theta 1. Okay, so this is the yes part and this is the no part. So all points, training points, will be divided into one of these 2 sets. Either they are yes as per the root node, or they are no as per the root node. Once they are divided, they will go to, all the yes ones will go here to this node, all the no ones will go to this node. Okay, so now let's change the colors a bit. So for all the yes ones, we will have another decision, and that decision, let's say, could be based on x1. Okay, x1 greater than theta 2. Okay, so here we have x1 greater than theta 2 is x1 greater than theta 2, and then basically this is your yes and this is your no. This is your yes and this is your no. Okay, similarly on this side, the next division for this node need not be x1 now, it could even be x2. So we could have, for example, let's take a blue color. So let's say this particular node, it could even be x2. So we have another x2 greater than theta 3. Theta 3 is some parameter, some threshold. So now we have yes here and no here, for example, right? So we could have many of these divisions, and then we can color these divisions based on the color of the class. Okay, so we can get many of these axis aligned divisions, and they will all be in a cascade. They will be nested in, they will be half spaces of half spaces and so forth. So that is the hypothesis class that this decision tree is implementing, and this is how it is dividing the input and output space. Okay. Now the question is, what is a good way to choose which variable and what threshold we should have at every node? That is basically what the algorithm, the learning algorithm, has to figure out. But what it is actually implementing, whether the implementation is good or not, is what you see on the right hand side. You will get all these boundaries which are axis aligned, they are not slanting, and when they are axis aligned, they will split the space into two half spaces, top, bottom, or left, right, or in 3 dimensions it will be more complicated and so forth. And those will be yes and no, and then within the yes and no there will be multiple yes and no's when you go down into the tree. Okay, so that's the hypothesis class of a decision tree. Now let's see how we are going to split each node. So we are going to use a greedy algorithm. What I mean by greedy is that when we are doing one step of the learning, it tries to maximize something, whereas when you take all the steps of the learning together, that local maximization for one step may not have been the optimal way of doing so. But we are greedy at every step. We are trying to maximize something at each step. So what is it that we are going to maximize? We are going to maximize the purity of branches. So what is purity? So let's say you have the root node. Okay, in this root node we get all the training points one by one. Okay, so we have now the index that I'm using 1 and 2, it's not the dimension, it is the index of the training point. So I get x1 t1, I get x2 t2, right? I get x3 t3, etc. up to xn tn. Okay, all these training points I get. Now these training points, these, what are these t1, t2, tn? These are, let's say, two classes, either class 1 or class 2. Okay, so some of them are class 1 and some of them are class 2. Alright, so these class 1 and class 2 makes all the nodes all the training points coming to this first node to be impure. It's not purely class 1, it is not purely class 2. Okay, what we would like is that we should find a decision in such a way that what we get on the 2 is purely class 1 and purely class 2, or vice versa, but not a mix of the two. It's either purely class 2, purely class 1, or purely class 1, purely class 2, but not a mix of the two. We want purity. So what is that definition of purity? So this is less pure. All the points coming here are less pure, but when they are split, okay, some points, some n1 points will go to left side and n minus n1 points, which is n2 points, will go on to the other side. Okay, so these are n points and these are n1 points, these are n2 points. We would like n1 and n2 points that are split to be pure, even though n points may not be pure. So let's not say purely C1, purely C2, let's just call them more pure, because we may not have the perfect decision. Okay, so more pure means predominance of one class over all the other ones. Okay, so what is the notion of this purity? How can we capture it mathematically? Okay, so one way to capture it, there are multiple ways of capturing it. We can say that we can say max over C of all the PC. What is PC? PC is probability of class C. Probability of class C, and let's say there are C classes that belong to 1 to capital C. So all these PCs will add up to 1. So sigma over C PC is equal to 1. Okay, and PC is greater than equal to 0. Okay, it's greater than equal to 1. Right, so it's a probability mass function. We want max PC to be very high, so that means it is very pure. Okay, so what is PC? PC is the probability of all the classes that are coming to, now let's define this a bit, that are coming to the ith node. Okay, so this is node 1, this is 1, this could be 2, this could be 3. Okay, so all the training points that are reaching that particular node or that particular branch, we are looking at the probability of those, and we don't know the probability, but what we are going to do is we are going to model that probability. We are going to model that probability as number of points in class C divided by all the points that are coming to that node. It's an empirical estimation of that probability. So that could be one way of looking at purity. Okay. The other way of looking at purity is to look at entropy. Okay. So entropy doesn't look at just the max, it will look at so your entropy is going to be negative log of negative estimated value of log of PC. So PC times log of PC summed over C. Okay, so this is the entropy. Okay, so that's another measure of purity, or it's rather a measure of impurity. High entropy means high impurity. So negative of entropy, where this negative sign is dropped, is going to be purity. Okay, so this is impurity. Another way of looking at it is that if you have similar to this PC, we can have sum over C PC 1 minus PC. Okay, so imagine if one of the PCs is very high, right? Then so this is another measure of impurity. This is called Gini impurity. Okay. So here, if one of the PCs is close to uniform, that means it is close to 1 over the number of classes, 1 over C. Then or all of them are rather close to 1 over C, then what we will get is the lowest Gini index. That means everything is equitable, all classes are equally represented, and that is basically high impurity. And otherwise what we will get is low impurity because of this 1 minus PC part. Okay, so it is maximized when all the PCs have the same value, which is 1 over C. Okay, so these are three different ways of measuring. So this is measuring impurity, and this one is measuring purity. So we can take negative of any of these to convert it to the other.